What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Star Wars Abridged, and today we are going to be going over and covering Chapter 18 of Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire. In Chapter 17, we saw that Luke's X-Wing did in fact kind of break down and stop working on him because of the maneuver he tried to use when he tried to escape the Chimera, and he's trying to get that fixed. He's trying to get R2 to get it fixed while he is in his hibernation stage, his Jedi hibernation stage. And Leia finally made it to Kashyyyk. She thought she saw one of Thrawn's Nagri. We don't know if she actually did or not, but we will figure that out at a later chapter. This chapter, however, Chapter 18, is going to be focusing solely on Luke, and we will learn if he does in fact get the X-Wing fixed or not. But let's go ahead and jump into it. If you're new here, go ahead and make sure you're subscribed and leave a thumbs up on this video if you enjoyed it. If you're interested in checking out an abridged version of Charles Soule's Light of the Jedi, which is the first book in the High Republic series, that playlist will be linked above. But let's get into Chapter 18. So, as I mentioned, Chapter 18 takes place from Luke Skywalker's point of view. He is still aboard his X-Wing, and he's in Jedi hibernation due to the damage that was caused to the ship when he escaped the Chimera. When the chapter starts, Luke is woken up by R2. If you'll remember from Chapter 17, he told R2, listen, if you even think anything is slightly going wrong, wake me up immediately. So, R2's waking Luke up. It takes him a minute to come to, but he finally kind of gets his bearings, and he realizes that there is a freighter behind him, and it's coming up on the X-Wing. So Luke rotates the X-Wing around to face the freighter, and as he is doing so, his comms light up. Whoever is on this freighter, this other ship, wants to talk. Luke patches them through, and he hears a woman's voice on the other side. The voice asks if Luke needs assistance and says that the ship she is on is called the Wild Card. So now we know this is Talon Karrde's ship, and there is a woman speaking to him. Luke gives the affirmative that he does need help, and the woman asks him what's wrong. He says that it's his hyperdrive and asks if they would have any spare shield cases. She says no, but tells Luke that they can take him to their destination system, and they can tow his X-Wing along too, but it's going to cost him. So this whole time, Luke is using the Force to see if this woman has any malicious intent behind her words, but he really can't sense any. And so this causes him to come to the conclusion that the ship either has to be a smuggler ship, pirate ship, or a disguised warship. And as we know, he's right in one of those. It is a smuggler ship. But the woman does come back on the other end and say that they will throw a Force cylinder out to Luke so he and R2 can get into their ship. So, obviously Luke has agreed to go along with them, and she says that the captain of the Wild Card, who we know as Talon Karrde, says the transport fee for him to ride with them will be 5,000 credits, which Luke has no problem with, and then he begins to make his way up to where the cylinder is. So the cylinder attaches to the X-Wing, they've got the airtight lock on. Luke is thinking if there is any time for them to want to kill me, now would be it, because they would just have to disengage the cylinder and nothing he can do, he'd be trapped in space. But Luke goes through the cylinder and reaches the other door, the inner door to the Wild Card. It opens, so Luke gets in safely, and he is greeted by a young man that welcomes him aboard. This young man then starts to walk away and says that the captain would like to see Luke. Luke then he's still a little bit nervous, so he uses the Force to try to survey the ship. And this time he's focusing on what sections of the ship contain life forms. Like, he can sense exactly where people are on this ship. So he's looking toward the front of the ship, trying to feel it out, sense it out, and he sees that there are 4 people up there. He then switches his senses to the back of the ship, and it's weird. He can only sense darkness, like not even emptiness, like there's something there, it's just darkness. However, he just attributes this to his hibernation state. He thinks he's still probably a little groggy. He's still not totally woken up, So he's just like, whatever, and he continues forward. Luke and that young man that welcomed him aboard make it to a door that slides open, and the guide reveals that it is Captain Card that wants to see Luke. So this is the first time that he actually tells Luke, this captain's name is Captain Card. Luke doesn't seem to know who Talon Card is, so him telling Luke that doesn't really have any effect on him. So Luke just walks into the room and he meets Card face to face for the first time in this book. Card greets Luke and then calls him by name, which completely throws Luke off guard. He's like, how does this man know who I am? Which, I don't think, if it was me, I don't think this would be that big of a red flag, because you gotta remember Luke is like probably the biggest celebrity in the entire galaxy. He destroyed the first Death Star. He was seen with Darth Vader as Vader was dying, so he's got this huge reputation. So I don't think it's that big of a red flag that Card would know Luke's name, but Luke thinks it's a red flag. Anyways, Card makes some small talk, and Luke tells him that he had a run-in with an Imperial Star Destroyer. Card, who is completely unsurprised by this, says, yeah, the Empire's still pretty active in this part of the galaxy, and this completely bothers Luke. Like, the red flags just keep coming for Luke, and he's on edge anyway, but he says even if that were true, if the Empire was still active in that part of the galaxy, Card should still be a little bit alarmed that there's a Star Destroyer so close by, especially if Card is a smuggler and that's his way of business, that's his way of living. Luke then asks Card how he knew who he was, and Card said, your lightsaber attached to your hip, it's a dead giveaway, because how many Jedi do you see out in the galaxy? And so this kind of leads to them to have a bit of a standoffish conversation with each other. It's like they're each trying to say something to make the other one slip up, and Luke just doesn't have a good feeling about this, and then it completely blows up in his mind. Like, he has a horrible feeling in the back of his mind. Luke then tells Card that it sounds like Card was trying to find him, and he kind of gets into a defensive position. He kind of spreads his legs out, puts his hand over closer to his lightsaber. He's just getting ready in case something happens. So Card then says that they were actually looking for Luke, and now Luke can sense the 5 people in the front of the ship, the 4 people he sensed at the beginning, and then the person that greeted him is now up in the front, so he can sense him too. He's just trying to get a feel. He's like, is anybody trying to come back here and corner me? Am I going to be ambushed? He doesn't want to get caught by surprise. So Card says, yeah, we were looking for you, and he reveals that it was actually one of his crew that led them to Luke's location. A woman named Mara Jade. Luke thinks, that he could be getting trapped by Card, just by Card saying this, like it could be a setup, but the fact that there's even the possibility that Card has someone on board that is Force sensitive and can sense Luke from light years away just is way too intriguing and interesting to Luke for him to care about being trapped, so he wants to know more. Luke then focuses his Force sense once again to the bridge to see if he can feel Mara Jade. He can feel her Force aura coming from her. So he focuses his sense to the bridge, and he can feel the woman that he spoke to over the comm. So now he's strong enough, and he's honing this ability enough to be able to tell who he is sensing through the Force. So he senses the woman he spoke to, he senses a man beside her, and then behind both of them, Luke just feels pure rage and hatred toward him. He says that this is a hatred and a rage that not even the Emperor had toward him. Like, the rage that is coming from this woman, Mara Jade, is stronger than any feelings the Emperor ever had toward Luke. So that has to tell you just how much she hates him. And so Luke is completely freaked out now. Card can see this, and then he tells Luke that it's taken him a long time to figure out that Luke was the reason for her feeling that way. He knew that she was angry, upset, but he didn't know that Luke was the reason until recently. So Luke is completely confused at this point. He's like, I've never even met her. I don't know why she would feel this way. I don't even know who she is. Card is like, well, that's a little disappointing because I was hoping that you could explain it to me, because Card wants to know too. He doesn't know why she hates Luke so much. But then Card apologizes to Luke for what they're about to do. Luke grabs for his lightsaber, knowing that danger is imminent, something's about to happen. But before he can do anything, he gets hit in the back with a stun weapon, and as he is falling unconscious, he has no earthly idea how Card tricked him. So that is the end of chapter 18, and what a Jim Dandy of a chapter, if I do say so myself. What happened in that chapter? But it gave us a little bit more mystery at the same time. We had the first interaction between Luke and Talon Card, and we didn't get an interaction between Luke and Mara Jade, but we realized that she really hates Luke. I mean, I can't stress enough. For her to hate him more than the Emperor did, I'm that's a lot. I don't know how else to put it, but we will learn in a future chapter just why she hates Luke and just how much she hates Luke. But I thank you for watching. Thanks for hanging out and talking some Star Wars today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember, if you are interested in checking out an abridged version of Light of the Jedi, that playlist is on the channel. Thanks for listening. May the Force be with you.